Hi, so I wanted to do a chair version of some of the nature-inspired postures we've been doing this spring so that you have some other options when you're practicing along. So the first thing is whatever you're sitting on, I'm sitting on my ottoman, but whatever you're sitting on that you can really feel your feet on the ground. This seat is a little low for me, but I like it because I can feel my sitting bones. I'm a little forward, right? I'm sitting a little forward so I can feel my sitting bones solidly, and my shoulders can balance above my hips, my ears above my shoulders, and I can feel the soles of my feet on the ground. So I would say lower is better than higher if you're using a chair. We'll go straight to some of the standing poses that we've been doing. And start with your feet just a little wider apart so you can still really feel your sitting bones. And of course, anything you want to do standing, that's fine. And knowing the chair is there and available to you. So if we're doing the sunrises, you can lean forward just as far as feels good for you, right? And then you can sweep your arms any amount, out and up. Maybe fingertips touch, and then come back down. And if changing your head position causes any equilibrium imbalance, then stay upright. Just move your arms. That's a great alternative. Another one is to keep your hands on your thighs and exhale forward and inhale up a few times. You just want to work with that vestibular sense, right? Moving your head position in space a little bit and experimenting with that. Or you can make it really big and put more weight into your feet. Back up a little more so you can see my feet. All right. All right. And then as far as the wide squats we might be doing, you can stay seated, go up and down, just with your arms, or maybe you experiment with coming out of the seat and back down a few times. And that is really strengthening and a great practice to experiment with, especially if you find it hard to get in and out of a chair, right? So you work with those lower abdominal muscles. I like to use my exhale, and you can lean a little forward, really feel your feet. And that's a great way to experiment with the chair pose. Alternatively, you just stay seated in your chair and you move your arms up. Maybe you shift a little forward, see how that feels for your back, and then you can rest. Right? Another one we've been playing with a lot is the balancing bird. And there's a lot you can do with balancing bird without actually getting out of the chair. Right? So you can fan out your toes, and you can hug towards the midline. You can even put a block or your hands between your thighs and really feel that you're hugging in with the whole kind of inner leg from your arches all the way up. So hugging towards the midline, and then you can experiment with bringing your heels up, just any amount, up and down. So all of these will be beneficial and strengthening, and you're finding the level at which there's interest, there's not suffering, right? There's interest, there's something interesting going on, but there's no suffering. Now with this wide shape of this ottoman, it's not going to work so well, so I'm going to move to the side. I wanted to show you what you can do with your arms. So depending on your shoulder, you might be taking your arm back just a little or a lot. You might have something you can hug. I'm actually, like if you're on the side of a chair, you can actually press on the sides of the chair, and that's really strengthening for the whole shoulder girdle. So as you're pressing, you're reaching, thinking of your wingtips, right, reaching back, and then maybe bringing your heels up and down as you hug towards the midline. There's a lot going on here, right? We don't actually have to take flight. We're in training for taking flight. And then you may find that you can lean a little more forward, right? And even maybe put your hands on your thighs, ease yourself up, out, and then back down. And of course, listen to your knees, right? All right, so that's balancing bird. Tree pose. I've seen so many variations of tree pose for chair. And of course, you can stand and hold the chair. You can also lean against the wall. But what are we trying to get out of tree pose? We're trying a little bit of balance, a little asymmetry, and then also that feeling of rootedness through our lower body and that expansiveness or ability to move a little through our branches. So keeping that in mind, your roots are not just through your foot, but also through your seat when you're sitting. And the other foot could turn out. The other knee could turn out any amount. So you just pick a side, have an external rotation through one hip, just the amount that feels good. And you can keep the ball of your foot down, or you can maybe move it higher. Move your foot on top of your other foot. So one knee is turned out. I know it's kind of hard to see here, but I think you can see. One knee is turned out. One knee is staying internally rotated, so the whole sole of my foot is really grounded, planted, and rooted. Okay, once I've got that, my sitting bones are also involved. I can feel my trunk growing long and my branches growing up. And then you can play with that. Right? And you can even use your chair to experiment with different positions of balance. Right? Maybe you have a flower in your tree. Maybe you have a bird. Okay, I'm going to do the other side just because. And can you think of a different variation? Find something that's going to be appropriately challenging and comfortable. So what we don't want to do is this, like yank the foot up here and then leave it there, because this is more about the physiological range of motion than the end range of motion. How far can your knee turn out doing the work with your hip? Like your hip is actually doing the work of turning out rather than your hands placing your foot somewhere. All right? So that hip is turning out. The other foot is on the ground, really lining up kind of knee and hip and foot. And as we root down through that foot, through our seat, we can play with our branches. So maybe it's something else on this side. Maybe you feel like your fingertips have little shoots of blossoms growing off them. All right, and then let's come back to center. All right, so eagle pose. This is an interesting one, right? Because we have a couple things going on. We have the arms. And so let's do arms first. Let's take one arm on top of the other. And this is a really beneficial practice just in and of itself. So it doesn't matter how far you reach, but that you're crossing the midline, giving yourself a hug, and you can feel the warmth of your hands on your arms, and you can also feel your arms under your hands. So it has a positive impact on our brain function. And you might feel this in your back. So you can breathe into your back ribs, relax your shoulders, expand. All right, and then let's take it to the other side. So other arm on top, giving yourself a hug. And the main thing about eagle is it's not about what the posture looks like on the outside, right? We're not using our bodies to get into a pose. We're using the pose to get into our bodies. Or in this case, to deepen the intention of focus, right? So you can think of eagle eyes. And it may be that you do the eagle just with your eyes, right? You're just using your eyes to focus one-pointedly on one thing and maintaining that focus, and while breathing and keeping your sense of humor. All right, so if we want to, we can do a variation of the legs. I'm going to lean back a little bit just to give myself more space, pick up one thigh, and maybe I have knee on knee. You can decide if that feels right for you. Otherwise, you might have foot on foot, similar to what we did for tree pose, except now my knees are together rather than turning that knee out. It's actually a little bit more internally rotated, this posture. So both knees are in the forward position. All right, so you could do something like this, but I'd probably recommend just ankle on ankle instead, or knee on knee. So this is having a different impact on your outer thigh hip region than if you turn your knee all the way out. All right, and then you can hug towards the midline. So you see how my top foot is now going down towards the floor. So you could stay just like this. I'm leaning back. I'm focused on my bottom foot and on that hugging towards the midline and rooting down sensation and the eagle eyes. But if you feel all right here and you want to be more upright, you could try the arms too. So you're going to get a little compression into your gut if your thigh is up into your belly. So yeah, that's normal. So I'll take my, whatever thigh is on top, that arm's going to come underneath. You can keep hugging your shoulders the way we did before, or you might be wrapping your wrists. But remember, it's not better or worse to wrap. All right, so we might be focused just on arms or just on legs, or everything's hugging towards the midline, drawing us closer to our center, closer to that sense of focusedness. Focus. All right, so conscious of your lower backs, pressing your sitting bones down into the earth, maybe lifting your elbows a little, maybe you're curling in on yourself. And again, you're really focused on that one pointed gaze. All right, and then anytime, release out, spread your wings, maybe flap your wings. I'm going to lean back on my hands, uncross. And then we'll take the other one on top. So again, you can cross ankles and hug towards the midline. That's your eagle pose, right? And it's all in how focused can you be with your gaze, right? Or it's thigh on thigh. And again, hugging towards the midline, feeling the roots of the pose through the lower body. We might stay just like this, drawing in towards midline, remembering there's no better or worse. What helps you stay focused? If it is appropriate to come more upright, you can do that. You can keep your arms out to help with balance, or you can take arm under arm and I've got whatever thigh is on top, that arm's going underneath. You might give yourself a hug. You could stay there, or you might be wrapping and breathing towards those lower back ribs. Remembering your intention, remembering your sense of focus. Be as purposeful as an eagle. All right. Crow pose, right? If we're staying in a chair, how would we do crow pose? First of all, I recommend you experiment with crow pose lying on your back. It's really nice. You could bring your elbows inside of your thighs. Maybe you press your palms together to feel that sensation of pressure, proprioception on your palms. And you can use your thighs to, again, hug towards center. There's a theme here, right? Hugging towards the midline, zipping up from pubic bone to navel, feeling length along your spine, and ability to breathe. Rooting through your feet, you could spread your toes, keep your feet on the ground, or you could take your toes up so just your heels are down. And this can help us really activate our legs. So we're hugging towards the midline, we're pressing our palms, we're lifting chest, and keep your neck relaxed, your jaw and face relaxed. You could continue with this, or you can take your arms forward, right, as if you're reaching towards the floor. And you could do this more upright, right? If leaning forward like this doesn't feel appropriate for your back, you could be more upright. So that would look like stop in the name of love, right? And you could just focus on your arms, pressing, spreading your fingers, and pressing through all your digits. Right? You might feel a lot there in your forearms and your shoulders. Okay,